President of the London College of Energy Economics. Good to have you with us here on the program. Do you think this is a good thing for Venezuela's oil industry, this capture of Maduro?
Good evening, and always happy to speak to TRT. Well, I believe this is a political question, but if you're talking on the U.S. terms, the United States is planning to restore democracy within the Venezuela. Yet, just if you look at what's happening, it's still the Maduro regime is still in power. So right now, you see the vice president being sworn in as an acting president. Whether that will be within on the U.S. terms, I believe that we still have to wait and see. But I would expect that, because given the political backlash that Venezuela has seen over the past decade, honestly, we all would hope that the country moves forward with a democratic transition and build a sustainable economy. And of course, oil industry is one part of that.
So, Yusuf, why was it so important, do you think, for Trump to get hold of the oil industry in Venezuela?
Well, I don't think it's only about oil here. I think there are multiple political dimensions within this carrying out a regime change within Venezuela. Of course, oil is one part of it, but the United States already has major supplies of oil. Perhaps, of course, the type of oil that Venezuela would supply would be of a special quality for many refineries, especially on the Gulf Coast. But I believe it's also about mineral resources. It's about security aspects, because Venezuela over the past 5 years or so has been kind of a playground for Iran and some terrorist militias. Perhaps, of course, this is why we're seeing now the former president being now charged in New York for narco-terrorism charges. So I believe there are multiple aspects, and oil is only one strategic part of it. Of course, here the United States will have a strategic presence, because now we'll see the U.S. Having access not just to Venezuela, but previously also to Guyana nearby. Venezuela has had a geopolitical conflict with Guyana that has included a kind of military interventions, I believe. And I believe now with you see a president now being changed in Venezuela, perhaps now this will create a fertile environment for American companies to work on both sides, because you have Guyana sitting on at least 4 billion barrels of oil, proven reserves, and next to it is the world's largest oil reserve, which is more than 300 billion barrels. So certainly, the United States has huge debts. So having access to Venezuelan oil perhaps could also play a part in kind of enabling the U.S. economy to restore, especially in terms of the debts that it has to pay for.
Also, in terms of market dynamics and geopolitics, do you think this is a way to sort of make sure that the U.S. has a steady supply of oil in case there's political instability in other parts of the world?
Well, I think the U.S., they've always had a sustainable supply. So since the 70s, when we had the major oil embargo back then, the United States has always had sustainable supplies of oil. Certainly, it had some interest perhaps during the Iraq War. But after 2014, after the U.S. shale oil revolution, the U.S. has been looking pretty much for heavy type of oil. They've been sourcing this from Canada, from Mexico, even from the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. Venezuelan oil has been under sanctions, so perhaps it will enable an easy access, because it's far closer to U.S. refiners compared to countries in the Middle East. Canada has its own problem since the Biden administration in terms of the piping capacity. I believe Mexico also would have some other issues in terms of supplying that type of oil. But I would expect that the sustainable supplies of oil for the U.S. would be something that is not a major concern. But thinking about the security aspects, the long-term security aspect, I believe here, and how this play out on the economy, the U.S. economy as a whole. Of course, adding to this as well, the mineral resources, access to the semiconductor industry, and the AI, of course. The U.S. wants to compete with China when it comes to access to mineral resources, because China has 80% of the processing capacity. So I believe Venezuela also has that advantage that the U.S. also needs to access. So, and oil is another major part of it.
All right, Yusuf Alshammari, thank you so much for your time here on TRT World.